welcome to the stage, it's Olga Koch!
What's up, females?
On September 11th, 2021, my long-term boyfriend broke up with me. And that 9/11 was my Vietnam. He broke up with me mere days after my 29th birthday. As it was happening, I was like, I'm sorry, am I in the opening sequence of every movie ever? If I look into a mirror, will I see Julia Roberts? And I don't want anyone to feel bad for me because I got broken up with. I want everybody to feel bad for me because I got broken up with by a self-proclaimed Disney adult. Do we know what a Disney adult is? It's an adult person who enjoys the works of Walt Disney. It does what it says on the tin. What I don't enjoy about Disney adults is that Disney adults appropriate virgin culture without doing the work of not having sex. That's not fair, you don't get both. And some of you are like, Olga, what's it like to long-term date a Disney adult? Well, it's when you're performing oral sex at the Toy Story Hotel at Disneyland Paris. Making direct eye contact with Woody on the wallpaper. And you think to yourself, this is exactly what I had in mind when you said you were whisking me away to Paris. Because London, if we know anything, is that real men like Looney Tunes. If you can appreciate the curves of Jessica Rabbit's body, your balls have dropped. I don't know if you know this, but Elmer Fudd was actually one of the founding members of the NRA. This is true, you can Google it. Because Looney Tunes teaches you real life skills, like when there's a gun pointed to your head, you tie it in a knot like a real man. But the thing you need to know about me is that whenever I go through a breakup, I never get sad. Whenever I'm single, I never get sad. If someone breaks up with me, I never get sad. If someone breaks up with me, if anything, I get more delusionally confident. Do you get this? Like, to give you an idea, a couple of months ago, I was riding this guy's dick, legend. And as I was doing it, I looked him directly in the eye and without a shred of irony said, I'm gonna make you believe in God. That's the last time I fuck Ricky Gervais, am I right? Come on! We're having fun. I could only come if he did Brent. No, he could only come if he did Brent. And look, it's difficult for me to be the comedian that fucks, okay? That is my plight. I know what you want from me. You want me to be a jester. You want me to be a clown. You want to point at me and feel better about your own lives. You want me to be pathetic, right? So I can't really come out here and be like, I have a lot of sex. I have to package it in a sad way. I have to be like, oh, I have a UTI. But how do you think I got it? And the reason I never get sad after I get broken up with, and I never get sad when I'm single, is because I came of age at a very specific time in history. I came of age in the late 90s, early 2000s, at the peak of hoe culture. I was raised by women like Samantha Jones from Sex and the City, like Nessa from Gavin and Stacey. When I was a little girl, I wanted to grow up to become Stifler's mom. And that is why I never get sad when I'm single. When I'm single, I fly my hoe culture flag high. And some of you may be uncomfortable with the term hoe. I totally get it. I used to be uncomfortable with it as well. But then in the last 2 years, I started referring to myself as a hoe, and I thought, what changed? And I think it's because in the last 2 years, I've stopped deriving so much of my self-esteem from sex and romance and started deriving more of my self-esteem from professional achievements and work. And that's when I realized, capitalism. You old dirty bastard, you've done it again! I just have a new daddy to please. I just want Adam Smith's invisible hand to pat me on the bum. I could do other stuff too. God, I love hoe culture. I love hoe culture. Hoe culture to me is the antithesis to traditional femininity. Hoe culture is a toxic femininity. It's fun. It's flirty. Hoe culture is a self-aware narcissism. Hoe culture is breaking the fourth wall to say, am I really about to suck this guy's dick? What am I even like? I love the women of hoe culture. I love Shania Twain singing, the best part about being a woman is the prerogative to have a little fun. I love Alanis, Avril, all the Canadian yodelers. Do you have copyright to that? It's not necessarily good women either. Nadine Dorries is hoe culture. Brigitte Macron, hoe culture. Do you know Brigitte Macron? First Lady of France. She's married to Emmanuel Macron, the president of France. They met in a classic meet cute. He was 16 and in school, and she was his teacher. 24 years older than him. And every time I think of Brigitte Macron, which is daily, 99% of me is like, oh my God, she's a pedo. She's a groomer. She should be in jail. What a nonce, what a nonce, what a nonce, nonce, nonce. But then 1% of me does inevitably always go, this is her story. Just the 1%. And hoe culture isn't just sex, right? Hoe culture is a way to live life. It's to say, shots on me, and then forgetting your debit card. Hoe culture. What a fun feather boa. Does it come in lime green? Hoe culture. Not bringing any camping equipment to a camping trip you organized. Hoe culture. What's your name, sir?
Ben.
Ben? That's hoe culture. Wearing a cowboy hat indoors? Thank you very, very much. Automatically connecting to the Wi-Fi at the Brewdog. That's hoe culture, baby. And usually, when I need to have my sexual needs met after a breakup, I contact a certain someone called Sebastian. Sebastian is a bad signal to all of my friends that I'm single and I'm out on the prowl. And the reason I contact Sebastian is because Sebastian meets most of my sexual needs. But I know for a fact that I will never fall in love with Sebastian. Because the very first time we had sex, Sebastian brought a guitar. There's no risk of me falling in love with anyone who once posted a picture of Elvis Presley on his Instagram feed with the caption, "Rest in peace, King." But I knew for a fact that I would never, ever develop feelings for Sebastian when I realized that he was the type of person to regurgitate facts and anecdotes you told him as brand new information. You know exactly what I'm talking about. He'd be like, I had diarrhea at the Red Hot Chili Peppers show. That was me! I told you that. He'd be like, did you know that this is where the clit is? I told you that. But this time around, after this breakup, Sebastian wasn't going to do the trick. Because after this breakup, I had a very specific goal in mind. And Sebastian is quite sexually conservative. He's a little bit sexually repressed. And my goal was quite adventurous. What I wanted to do was something I'd never done before. What I wanted to do after this breakup was to have a threesome. Shock, awe. Everyone's like, Olga, you're so confident. You look like you've forgotten how to have sex with fewer than 4 people. I know, I'm aware of the vibe that I give off. Honestly, it would be so on brand for me to have a threesome. But the main reason I wanted to have a threesome was because I just wanted to see if I could. Like, no one tells you when you're younger how much sex stuff you do, not because you want to do it, but because you want to have done it. Like, you've had a 69 to, like, tick the box, not for the pleasure of anyone involved. Right? I mean, a few years ago, I got obsessed with having sex with a rock star. I was like, I want to fuck a rock star. I want to fuck a rock star. And then I had diarrhea at the Red Hot Chili Peppers show. No, I was like, I want to fuck a rock star. If I have a daughter one day, I want to sit her down and I want to tell her about all the rock stars I fucked. Is this relatable? And so I approached it in a very organized way. I found like a medium-sized band. They were called the Orwells. You don't need to know anything about the Orwells. All you need to know about the Orwells is that they're sort of intellectual enough to call themselves after a literary author. But strategic enough to have that author be on the GCSE curriculum. Okay. So I showed up to the concert, I stood in the back, I sipped on my G&T, I plotted, I schemed, I stayed after the show, I started chatting to the band, I focused on the drummer, lowest self-esteem. I brought him home. The second we walked into my house, I was like, you can go now. He was like, what? I was like, I wanted to see if I could fuck you. I don't actually want to fuck you. He was like, what? I was like, oh, sex with you would probably be terrible. Please leave. And he wasn't too happy about it, but if you feel bad for him, don't. 2 weeks later, the entire band got Me Too'd, so what I was doing was technically activism. Thank you very, very much. So I was thinking as to why I'd never had a threesome before. And I think it's because most formations of threesomes make me feel very uncomfortable. Like, I don't think the division of labor is fair. And I'm very sensitive to unfairness, okay? I don't know if you get this, but like, if I see a pregnant woman and a man out and about, I get angry. I get really angry, because I don't think it's fair for a woman to be less fuckable for 9 months, okay? I'm not saying I wouldn't fuck a pregnant chick. I'm just saying surely it's harder to get laid when you're pregnant. Like, if you saw a pregnant woman in a bar, you'd be like, hey, should you be here? So I've never had a threesome, apart from the time that I fucked that pregnant chick. You'll get there. So let's go through every formation of a threesome and talk about why they don't work for me, okay? First, me and 2 straight men. Absolutely not. No, that's too much work for me. Also, straight men one-on-one, there are some good eggs. Straight men in a group, that's how we get Imagine Dragons. Me and 2 women, that's not a threesome, that's a book club, honey. Olga, what about non-binary people? What about gender-fluid people? To me, they are superior human beings. With them, there are no rules. They can pass me around like Pete Davidson. Okay, Olga, what about a man and a woman? I'm sorry, there's not a man on the surface of this fucking planet that deserves to watch me fuck a chick. That's a treat, that's a prize. I cannot think of any man that deserves the satisfaction of watching me make love to a woman. No man deserves that prize. Maybe Captain Tom? After you've done as much as he had for this country, maybe you can watch me kiss a lady. I did this joke to complete silence in Brussels, Belgium, after which I realized that I had to explain the concept of Captain Tom to a room full of unassuming Europeans. And let me tell you, there's no story that gets less and less believable the longer you tell it. I was stuck there on stage sounding like an American drug commercial, okay? I was like, Captain Tom was a war veteran who was walking around in circles in his backyard. He was raising money to treat COVID-19, and when the Tory government found out that he was raising money to treat COVID-19, they decided to give him the job of single-handedly curing COVID-19. No offense to Captain Tom, he did a terrible job. And to thank him for everything he's done for COVID-19, British Airways decided to give him COVID-19 by sending him to the Caribbean, after which he tragically passed. But he died safe in the knowledge that his daughter Hannah stole 600,000 pounds from him. And I'm calling it now. 2 years from now, HBO will get the writers of Chernobyl to do like a Lady Macbeth-esque retelling of Hannah, Captain Tom's daughter. It's the beginning of the pandemic. Hannah's husband loses his job. Hannah has a bright idea. She puts a tripod in front of her father, who's walking around in circles and has no idea what's going on. And at first, they make a little bit of money just to cover the mortgage, maybe some groceries. Hannah's husband's like, babe, that's elder abuse. She's like, who else is gonna pay the mortgage, Chris? They make more money. They have to start a foundation, hire an accountant. Hannah's getting sloppy. Hannah's buying shoes. British Airways flies them out to the Caribbean. By this point, Hannah's too far gone. She's sipping on pina coladas by the pool. She has Captain Tom on the next season of The Masked Singer. They fly back. Captain Tom tragically passes, played beautifully by Eddie Redmayne. The death doesn't stop Hannah. She calls the ABBA hologram people. And if you think I've gone too far, I think we can all collectively agree that Rosamund Pike is going to look beautiful at the Golden Globes. So what I'm trying to say is British Airways killed Captain Tom, so now I can't have a threesome. And there's only one threesome that would work for me. It is a very rare threesome to come by. It is the holy grail of threesomes. And that threesome is me and 2 bisexual men. Because that's a triangle where everybody can entertain everybody, nobody is texting in the corner. Any bisexual men in? Statistically unlikely. Any open-minded straights? Any conservative gays? Look, I urge everyone to reconsider. I think bisexual men are superior to straight men in every single way. For example, bisexual men can take a nude, okay? Because bisexual men are terrified of objectifying themselves a little bit, right? Like any straight man nude I've ever received has always just been a very tightly cropped medical image of their dick that's like, ah! It's purple. Any straight man nude I've ever received can be captioned with the words, "Is this normal?" "Should I see a doctor?" Because straight men are so terrified of being gay, the second they see a penis on their phone, even their own, they're like, "No!" And they throw the phone across the room. A bi guy isn't afraid of his own body. Maybe he'll get a thigh if you're lucky. He'll be like, "Ooh, it's attached to something."